Today is Thursday, October 10th, World Mental Health Day, 2024. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me. I'm Dr. Silva. World Mental Health Day is an international day for global mental health education, awareness, and advocacy against social stigma. It was first celebrated in 1992 at the initiative of the World Federation for Mental Health, a global mental health organization with members in more than 150 countries. This day, each October, thousands of supporters come to celebrate this annual awareness program to bring attention to mental illness and its major effects on people's lives worldwide. In addition, this day provides an opportunity for mental health professionals like myself to discuss and shed light on their work, making mental health a priority worldwide. In some countries, this day is part of an awareness week, such as Mental Health Week in Australia. The theme this year, by the way, is prioritizing mental health in the workplace. Today, in observance and the spirit of this day, I'm going to share with you my personal experience with an esoteric OCD symptom I call reliving. I recorded this a few days ago, and as I was editing it, I was really torn about sharing such personal information because it is based on my experience, but then I thought to myself, why not share it? The nature of this playlist is deeply personal. Because these symptoms are esoteric, i.e. they're not in the mainstream, they're not being talked about, and the only reason I know about them is because I myself suffer from OCD, and I myself have struggled with them. I am intimately aware of them, and I don't fully understand them. In fact, this last one only crystallized in my mind, as I talk about in the video, just the other day when I was in therapy with my psychotherapist. So as I think about them, I don't even know what to call them, but I ponder their nature and how they've manifested through the years, and I really try to study in my mind. I do thought experiments, and I try to make sure that what I'm describing is a whole, because OCD has many aspects, but at the end of the day, there's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm such a crusader for the destigmatization of mental health conditions. It would be hypocritical of me to give in to the urge to conceal my own struggles with mental health. We all struggle at one time or another, by the way, in case you didn't know. And anybody who denies that is being arrogant, in my humble opinion. The information might be really useful or enlightening to someone. And what better source of information than something I've lived through? This channel is not about me, but if I have something that I can share, that I have particular insight into, not because of any textbook knowledge, nor even through having counseled or treated other people, my patients, but from having lived through it myself, what better source? I understand it. I can describe it, the nuances, better than the next person, better than the average psychiatrist even. And so in commemoration of Mental Health Day, I'm going to release this next installment in my Esoteric OCD Symptoms playlist, which by its nature is deeply personal and not talked about anywhere else, I'm certain. I myself struggle to describe these phenomena, to even give them names, but I know by the way that they feel that they're comprised by my OCD. This is the nature of this playlist, is to share things, some of which might be a little embarrassing, a little awkward. OCD symptoms, they're irrational. Sometimes on the surface, they seem ridiculous, but there is an evolutionary significance to these symptoms. They are biological phenomena, behaviors gone awry, no doubt about that. But they're worth examining, they're worth talking about, and I think putting this out there, I know that I'm not the only one. I can't be the only one. I'm not that special. There are other people out there, millions of people out there, who have either experienced the same thing or something very similar to it, who may not be able to put a name to it, who may not even realize that it's part of their OCD, who, in hearing me talk about these symptoms, might gain a better understanding. And then there are people out there who also would be inspired to share their own experiences with either this symptom or other symptoms that they don't hear talked about but that they think are part of their OCD. The last thing I'll say is that whenever I do share my personal experience, whether it's about myself and my own life or whether it's about patients that I've treated, the response that I get from a lot of people, particularly people who can identify with the symptoms that I'm talking about, and especially when I am reviewing anxiety, is that it makes them feel better. It calms them down. Just in hearing somebody talk about what they're going through, articulating what they've experienced, an expert who has seen it time and time again, who can give reassurances, who can, in discussing it and in discussing the available remedies, can give them hope, a sense that things are going to be okay. That is why I am doing this channel, and that is why I'm willing to put myself out there and go out on a limb with stuff that may sound just nutty, goofy, crazy to the vast majority of people who are watching this channel, and that only a very select few. What I think is I don't even have enough viewers right now to really appreciate and understand. I think I would have to have a lot more viewers to have enough people to really identify with what I'm saying. But I'm going to record these things anyway, because in being honest and open, I'm trying to be of service. And I think that someday these videos will find a wider audience, and there will be people out there who will appreciate what I'm saying. So happy World Mental Health Day. And remember that what this day is about is commemorating and increasing awareness and stamping out stigma. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Silva. Thank you for joining me for this talk on esoteric OCD symptoms. In this episode, I want to talk about something that I fully understood today in my therapy session with my therapist. As I was talking, I realized that I was getting upset, or not that I was getting upset, but that I was feeling the feelings that I felt when those things occurred. Full force. I was very animated. I'm sure my blood pressure was up. I was all into it. Consciously, I wasn't upset, but I guess I was. It's very layered and multifaceted, as most OCD things are. But had you stopped me and asked me, "Are you okay?" I would have looked at you like I had just broken character. And I would have looked at you like, "What are you talking about?" "Yes, I'm fine." But in the moment, there was no doubt that I was all worked up. And this reminded me of an observation my sister has made in the past, which is the idea that I haven't let go of the past and that I haven't actually forgiven certain people in my past, because when I talk about it again, very animated, very full force, and I go on and on and on. And I tell her, I've always known that it's my OCD. It's my OCD that makes me go on and on. It's my OCD that takes me back there as though it were still happening. And that's the point that I'm going to make here. It's almost like a derealization. There's a certain dissociative aspect to it. I can so well remember the trauma in this case, and so well remember how upset I was, that as I am remembering it and as I'm telling it, I am reliving it. And I am truly reliving it. I'm there, even though I know I'm not there, even though I know that I'm talking to my therapist. But the emotions are just as real and just as fresh as they were when it happened. And no matter how many times I tell the story, that's the experience, that's the phenomenon. I relive it. I'm going to call this symptom reliving. I have to make up names for these symptoms because they're not talked about. All you ever hear about is hand washing and counting and checking the locks. You don't hear about these more esoteric symptoms, but they are absolutely part of OCD. They fall under that umbrella. There's a compulsive quality to it because my sister tries to shut me down. She tries to tell me, Stop talking about that. I don't want to hear about that anymore. I don't want to hear about those unhappy memories from our childhood. If you have forgiven, then you should be able to let it go. And I feel like I have to finish what I'm saying, and that I have to tell her about some aspect or some other episode that she doesn't know about, that she wasn't there for. But she doesn't want to hear it. She doesn't want to hear it. And it kills me. I cringe at having to hold my tongue. And sometimes I can hold my tongue. And she's saying, you're not respecting my boundaries. You're not respecting my boundaries. And she literally has to interrupt and to shut me down. And it's very hard for me to stop. That is compulsive talking. And I have another video on compulsive talking. But so I know this is part of not having enough serotonin. I know it's related to that. But what I realized today in therapy was that this same phenomenon, this same genetic thing of not having enough serotonin that makes me, or I don't know, what the pathophysiology is, not having enough serotonin, my neurons not knowing what to do with it, whatever the pathophysiology is, and it is serotonergic in nature. The same thing that makes me tidy and fastidious and a lover of symmetry and someone who sometimes does things the hard way. And I've got videos on some of these other things. Please check them out in this playlist. But what I realized today in therapy was that the very thing that makes me hang on to those memories, because even though I have forgiven, I can go back there and I can relive it, and it is fresh and I feel it, and it really is like I'm there. When I'm talking about it to another person, there's less of that dissociative element because I'm engaged in a conversation. I'm talking to my therapist, I'm talking to my sister, I'm looking at them, I'm making eye contact. I'm not in my mind. But just the other night, and this happens from time to time, as I am thinking about, in particular, I think about my father and I think about my brother, both of whom passed this year. So we just very recently lost them. And both of whom never asked for my forgiveness, but both of whom I feel that I had to forgive them for certain things. And even though they never asked for forgiveness, I feel like I did forgive them. I didn't think about what it was that had hurt me so much. And in my interactions with them, it was as though it had never happened. It wasn't at the forefront of my mind. I actually did another video on forgiveness as well, and whether true forgiveness is a choice. And so please check that one out. But to my mind, to my way of thinking, I forgave them. And it was a choice. It wasn't automatic. It wasn't that kind of forgiveness that was just automatic, organic and automatic. No, this one, I had to make a decision. But it was really in retrospect, and by then, really, I had let go of it to some extent. The point is that when you're OCD, you don't ever truly let go of anything. And then there's this morbid curiosity thing that I don't want to forget my trauma. My trauma is important. It's part of who I am. It formed me. And those memories are important to me. I'll have them for the rest of my life. And I don't want just the happy ones. I want the painful ones as well. And I can't explain to you why that would be something that I would want. It is, again, part of OCD. You could call it a morbid fascination, but it's something more than that. At any rate, sometimes when I'm alone and I'm not engaged in conversation, and also, well, sometimes when I am in a certain frame of mind, and I'll remember, and my mom used to do this as well. My mom had OCD and she gave it to me, and I could see this in her as well. She would talk about things and it would be like they had happened yesterday, and you could see how just the animation and then she would calm down in an instant when we changed the subject and we moved on, because it was only in reliving that. It was like she relived it, and then when she's not reliving it anymore and truly reliving, it reminds me of the PTSD symptom, post-traumatic stress disorder symptom, that is re-experiencing, where you actually have flashbacks. It's kind of like a flashback. And if you don't have anything else, any other stimuli, and you're just in your mind, and you're sitting on your couch by yourself, for example, and nothing else is stimulating you, then I can really go there in my mind, and I get this tunnel vision, and I'm not really seeing what's in front of me, and I'm there. And I feel the emotion. I feel it when I tell somebody, I feel it when I'm there. And I'll start to say those things that I couldn't say then because I was a child, that I was afraid, or it didn't occur to me to say, that I should have, could have, would have said, right? And my therapist said, good. It's a way of reenacting. You say those things that you need to say, that I need my sister to hear, but she doesn't want to hear them. She doesn't need to hear them, and Dad doesn't need to hear them, but I need to say them. Nobody needs to hear them. I need to say them for the catharsis. The catch is, though, because it is OCD, there's never enough. If I do it and say it and go through that whole exercise automatically, not because my therapist told me to go role play, it just happens. But it can happen again if I go there again and again and again and again and again. And it's really insatiable, like anxiety. I'll never have enough. But anyway, it is a therapeutic thing. And even though it seems like a negative thing on the outside, and if you were to witness it, you would say, are you okay? You're upset? Calm down. What can I do? Can I get you a glass of water or something? And no, it's actually a good thing because it's catharsis. It's like expressing poison from the snake bite, from the wound. You're popping the zit, you're squeezing the abscess, and the poison is coming out. And that's a good feeling, even though there's an endless supply, really, if you really look at it, if you really get down to it. But I remember Mom talking about things that had happened 50 years ago, and she was talking about it like it was just yesterday. The indignance was as fresh and as real, and she was feeling it. And it wasn't a choice. You don't make a choice. It's just happening to you because of this syndrome of not having enough serotonin, the same thing that makes you a worrier, the same thing that makes you a perfectionist, the same thing that gives you OCD. And for some people, social anxiety, and other people, panic disorder, and other people, other forms of this syndrome that I call major anxiety syndrome. But I've been known to talk out loud, and I do that anyway. That's another OCD symptom, talking out loud. Again, my mother did it as well, and I know there are millions of you people out there that do it, and it's almost like a compulsion to say it out loud. It's like you have to say it out loud. So I'm talking to my dad, and I'm talking to my brother, and I'm saying what I could have said, what I should have said, angrily or tearfully even. I'm shedding tears and I'm raising my voice, but really it's just a level of derealization and of flashing back and of being in a tunnel and of forgetting where you are in the moment because you are in the past. And I can do it like a time traveler. It's not even a choice. It just kind of happens if I let myself go there. And that is something that I just don't hear people talking about. Re-experiencing, reliving. Those of us who maybe could use a little bit more serotonin are able to feel what we're describing or what we're remembering, and feel it just as vividly as we felt it the first time around. Maybe more so, because the indignation, the injustice of it all, as you look back and you say, that was wrong. And so all of that crystallized today in therapy as I was telling my therapist, and I was telling her, you see how I'm getting worked up? But I'm really not that upset. I am and I'm not, I guess. I am, but I'm not aware that I am, because to me, I'm just telling a story, or I'm just having a memory. But because I am reliving it, I really am feeling it. It's a dichotomy. It's a schism that's very interesting and very esoteric. So I hope you enjoyed this little episode. Thank you for joining me.